Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the BNI Southeast Tennessee podcast. My name is Michael Crosa with Chattanooga Podcast Studios, and I'm here with Elaine Zambos,
Hello.
Director of BNI Southeast Tennessee. Audience, last week we did a part one about having hard conversations, and today we are going to continue with part two of that, and I'm really excited to continue that conversation.
We're going to talk more about how hard it is to have those tough conversations. This is going to be tough.
It's going to be tough. So first, let's prepare ourselves with a little sponsor break. This episode of the BNI Southeast Tennessee podcast is made possible by Superpower Strategies and Beth McClary Walford, helping businesses increase revenue by showing them how to find the right clients, connect with them, and love on them real good. An ideal referral would be a business owner with 0 to 10 sales staff who's frustrated by stagnant growth. Find out how Superpower Strategies and Beth can help you out by scheduling a free consultation. Just go to superpowerstrategies.com, which is linked in the show notes below. Okay, so coming back to the idea of difficult conversations, in part one, I think we talked a lot about how to come into a conversation so that we're not creating an adversarial, right? We're starting by making this a collaborative conversation. And in my professional background in higher ed, which is completely unrelated from podcasting, a lot of the work that I did was around behavioral intervention. So college student does something bad, and often pretty bad stuff, like sexual misconduct, like that kind of stuff is part of my career history. So those are conversations where we know it's going to be at least somewhat adversarial. Right. And one of the things that my colleagues and I would often prepare ourselves with is knowing that or what we would prepare ourselves with is this idea of the cornered animal response.
Okay.
So when an animal is feeling cornered, right? You got a raccoon, you got
Right.
the broom, and it's trying to get out of the kitchen. What does it do?
Oh, it gets defensive.
It's defensive. It lashes
attacks.
out. Right.
Mhm.
Okay. So a lot of times if we are holding somebody accountable for their behavior, it doesn't feel good to them. Doesn't feel good to be right. A lot of times it's a certain level of surprise, even if the accountability itself is not the surprise, but being talked to about it or being confronted is often a surprise. So we are but animals. People lash out. Right. And so knowing that, hey, going into this situation, I'm approaching this person about something that they might feel cornered about. And I can recognize that they may lash out. I can hold myself still. I can give them space to feel the emotions that they're feeling. They may say things that they don't mean.
Right.
That doesn't mean that it doesn't matter, right? But I can know that, okay, I'm not going to get pulled into this as a fight.
Right.
I'm not going to let this hurt me emotionally right in this moment. I'm going to stay present. I'm going to stay focused. And so then, hey, we need to talk to you about this particular thing that happened. Blah, 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 blah. Sit, just wait.
Right.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Take a deep breath. Okay, now let's talk about it. And a lot of times if we can get past that cornered animal response, then we can have a more productive conversation now than if, we thought that is their response, right? It's not their response. That's the cornered animal response. Right. So, that's one of my favorite pieces of advice to give to people.
Right, because once we get that emotion out, and as much as we want to say we want to keep emotion out of those tough conversations, it's not always easy to do.
Right.
And so the person who has that emotion, if you keep letting them talk and getting that emotion out, they eventually calm down. Right. I know little Carter's only 9 months old now.
He's old enough to get angry.
Yeah. But if you let him just cry it out,
right,
he eventually calms down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then he kind of forgets what he was all crying about anyway.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And it's the same situation with these difficult conversations, is to allow the person, because people want to be heard.
Yeah.
They want to be heard. And so a lot of times when we do have to have difficult conversations, most of the times it's because we don't have all the information. Right? And so when we don't have all the information, what do? We make up a story.
Right. Fill in the gaps.
We fill in the gaps, and we typically do not fill in the gaps with good stuff.
Right.
And that kind of goes along with some other conversations we've had. But as long as we can get that information out of why this emotion, like why this emotion got to the level that it is, then we can bring it back down. And it's very difficult. I mean, that's why we have mediators and
right. People that can hold that space. Yeah. You know, another line that I think is really good that people could probably benefit more of in their life is just to be able to say, thank you for that information. I think I need some time to consider how that affects my decision.
Right.
We don't have to come up with a decision right on the spot a lot of times, right?
No, we don't.
We can say things like, wow, let me think about that. I don't know. Let me find out. Let me get back to you.
And unfortunately, so many times we want to be either A, right.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Or we don't want, if we have to say, I don't know, then we're like, wait a minute, I'm giving you the upper hand because now you don't think I have the confidence, right, to finish this out. And that's not it at all.
Right.
So sometimes you just need to step back from the situation because, again, and then ask yourself, is this going to matter tomorrow, next week, next month?
In a year.
Yeah. You're right. So sometimes we just have to really step back and really let go of those things. But I think if we can get, number one is just getting that emotion out of it. And plus on our part, like if we're the ones that are going to have the elephants in the room and we're the ones that have to have that conversation, making sure that we approach it in a non-defensive manner. Using words like, why did this happen?
Ooh, why?
Whoa,
yeah.
That is a bad word. We do not want to use that because why triggers defense. Always.
Right. Yeah. So if you can frame questions like, how did this happen? Or tell me, walk me through, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that can be a lot better than
or share with me your thoughts about this.
Yeah.
And
that
then
open-ended.
Then it's more open, right? Because again, we don't want people to get defensive about it.
Right. We want to work on the problem.
Right.
What was that from the last one? We want the outcome.
We want to focus on the outcome, not being right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so looking at what is the possible outcome for this, and we may not know that as we're starting that conversation, but as we're talking about it and we're filling in the gaps of the story, then the outcome becomes pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Again, just walking through those steps of no emotion, what do I want the outcome to be? And then, making sure that we ask questions that do not put people on a defensive manner.
Right.
And owning it. Like we have to own part of it. Because a lot of times if we're having a difficult conversation and there's an elephant in the room, we probably are part of that story too.
Right.
So owning part of that to say, hey, what can I do differently? This happened. I didn't like it. What can I do differently?
Yeah.
And then again, be prepared. Be prepared and you not get mad when they tell you that, right?
Right.
Because there's all those situations that, could really escalate into a horrible space.
Totally. Speaking of space, I think that thinking through physical space can also be a really helpful thing that people often miss. And so, again, thinking back to like my college student conduct days, we would do very specific things like lay out the office so that nobody was blocking the other from the door.
Oh, yeah.
Because even that there's nothing happening, but sometimes people have some personal history or something like that, like where we need to be able to get out the door, or that's a safety thing.
The
for them.
Escape route.
Right. I mean, escape route, and I think even people just thinking through like, okay, maybe I'm a big, tall, scary dude, and I don't feel like a scary person. I don't think people
right.
are. But just thinking through, like, what does that mean? And, are there ways that I can mitigate this? Maybe it's not, but, thinking through that is helpful. And to that end, too, about space, I find just kind of in my personal life that a lot of times a difficult conversation is a lot better on a walk or in the car. And here's why. If you and I are walking somewhere, symbolically, we're moving together.
Right.
We're side by side. We're not against each other.
Right.
And there's something else to look at. We don't have to have this intense eye contact throughout this process. So,
I like that.
Yeah.
I think the other piece we have to keep in mind when we have these tough conversations is tonality and the tone of our words. Because if I said to you, I don't know who took the money. That's very right? Right. That's very just, okay, I don't know who took the money. But if I say, I don't know who took the money, Now it's saying,
somebody does.
Somebody, I don't know who knows, but somebody knows, right? Or if I said, I didn't take the money, now I'm insinuating somebody did take it.
Right.
Or if I were to say it like, I didn't take the money.
I didn't take the money.
I
took something else.
I took something else. Right. And so we have to think about the tonality of our words when we're having those conversations as well.
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff that goes on in all that, like the personal space, the setting, the words, the emotion, the outcomes. Right.
Right. All kinds of things. And I think to cap all of that off, there's so much nuance.
There really is.
There's no set answer for any one person or one scenario, one situation. So if you're out there listening, how to apply this to your own life, that's my biggest piece of advice out of all of this is just know that it's different for every situation. It's okay to approach different people differently as long as it's in the best interest and making sure that everything else is being held constant and appropriate and everything.
Right. There's no checklist.
Right.
There's no checklist.
There's no official checklist. Wow. Well, this episode is brought to you in honor of Be the Change Youth Initiative, a BNI member nonprofit empowering youth and reducing suicide rates by engaging them in community transformation. A good referral for Be the Change Youth Initiative would be businesses or community organizations who are passionate about involvement and engaging younger generations. You can find out more by going to BeTheChangeYI.com, which is linked in the show notes below. This has been a great episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to the BNI Southeast Tennessee podcast. My name is Michael Crosa. Again, this is Elaine Zambos. We thank you so much. Please be sure to subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, Pandora, anywhere else that you might listen to your podcast. A big thanks to Wavelength Space for hosting us and for Mad Honey Rentals for this beautiful set that is behind us. And Elaine, you know I'm a new dad and I love dad jokes. What you got for me?
So, what did the police officer's belly button have to say?
Okay. I don't know. Something with lint.
No. You're under a vest.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time on the BNI Southeast Tennessee podcast.